Hey, this is Kate from dailytarotgirl.com and welcome to my Tarot Deep Dive series. Each week I take you on a journey into a major arcana card, and this week we're diving into the Lovers. So buckle up and get ready for a really fun ride. So you may want to have a pen and notebook handy because I'm going to be giving you journaling prompts and questions to ponder. I'm going to give you the keywords and symbols of this card, and we're going to be exploring the light and the dark side, and then we're going to dive even deeper into some basically three key concepts that are associated with this card. So the Lovers is perhaps one of the juiciest, most fascinating major arcana cards. The Lovers is all about relationships, the relationship that we have with ourselves and how that can reflect and determine the kinds of relationships that we have with others. So technically the Lovers could be about any kind of relationship, but usually it's about a romantic or sexual type of relationship. So some keywords here: attraction, temptation, seduction, choice, passion, primal desire for union, and vulnerability. Some symbols to look out for, and the card that I'm going to be showing you is from the Universal Waite Tarot. So some key symbols here. If you basically look at this card, it's a depiction of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. And so we see the snake on one side, and the snake represents temptation. We see the man and the woman, and they both represent polarities, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later in the video. And then you can see there's an erect mountain in the background, and I think that erect mountain symbolizes like sexual potency and an erection, or kind of getting aroused, sort of the passion coming up to the surface. And there's also the flaming tree. Now you could think of that as like the burning bush in the Bible, but I see that flaming tree as a symbol of passion. And then both of the people on this card are naked, and so that symbolizes two things. It symbolizes being in a primal state, and we're going to be talking a little bit about how this card symbolizes primal desires. So that nudity represents being in the primal state, and it also represents vulnerability and the role that vulnerability plays in relationships. So those are just a few key words that will help you, that will kind of help jog your memory about what this card is all about. So like every major arcana card, this card has a light side and a dark side. So the light side of the Lovers is that the Lovers represents union with another. So it represents finding union, merging with another in an intimate way, and basically merging with your polar opposite. So merging with someone who is very different from you. The positive side of the Lovers is that it represents passion and connection with a lover. And vulnerability plays a key role here, because the more willing you are to be vulnerable, the deeper you can go. So the more connection, the more depth of connection and union you can achieve, depending on how vulnerable you're willing to get. So the dark side of the Lovers is fascinating. So the dark side is losing yourself in the other, and a union that obliterates your sense of self in a bad way. Kind of like a toxic sort of codependent relationship where you really lose your connection to self through that relationship. It can also represent giving into temptation as a means to forget yourself. Or kind of abandon yourself. And when we think about, we'll be talking more about temptation, so I'll save it. But that's the dark side of this card. All right, so I'm going to dive into three key areas of this card. We're going to look at attraction, temptation, and primal desire. So let's start with attraction. So the Lovers is all about attraction. And often opposites attract, and we may find ourselves attracted to people who are very different than us. Now, if you have the kind of relationship with yourself where there's a lot of aspects of yourself that you're repressing, that you don't like, and that you're kind of pushing down and denying, sometimes what can happen is we are attracted to people who actually possess those qualities. So I'll give you a good example of this. So when I was traveling in Italy, I met a couple, and the woman was very almost kind of meek. She was very polite. She was very soft-spoken. And her husband was the exact opposite. He was kind of like a bull in a china shop, and he was very loud and demanding and rude to people. And I remember at the time thinking, oh, this is so interesting that these two are a couple, that they are obviously attracted to each other, yet they are so very different. And one way of looking at that, years later, I was studying shadow work, and I thought of that couple because I think what might have been going on is that the woman was it was very important to her to be like really nice and accommodating and friendly and, not stir the pot. And so I think that any aspect of her personality that went against that, she would repress. And here she was attracted to someone who was very rude and loud and demanding. Now, she may not have consciously been attracted to those specific traits. Those traits may have bothered her in her husband, but she was still attracted to him. And similarly, I think, or not similarly, in a different way, traits that we desire for ourselves, so things that we feel we are lacking but we want more of, we may also be attracted to those traits in others. And the shape that your attraction takes may be different. So maybe you're sexually attracted to people who possess the qualities that you've denied in yourself, but maybe you're attracted to people in a friendship kind of way who possess the qualities that you want for yourself. So maybe you admire those people and want to be around them, but you may not be sexually attracted to them. Everyone's different though, but that's just a couple of kind of interesting ways of looking at attraction. So you can learn a lot about yourself by paying attention to who and what you're attracted to. So I'm just going to look at my notes here just to make sure I haven't missed anything. Okay. So a couple questions I have for you. I want you to think of someone. This could be someone in your real life, someone that you actually know, or it could be a celebrity that you find very attractive, preferably like sexually attractive. Why? Why are you attracted to them? What is it that you find appealing and attractive? What about them is so attractive to you? And what qualities in another person will really ignite you and draw you in? This may not be obvious right away. So just think of people in your past who you've been powerfully attracted to and drawn to. What was it about them that attracted you? Okay, temptation. The Lovers is also about temptation. So it symbolizes temptation and the choices that we make as a result of our temptations. So typically the things that tempt us the most are often things that pull us out of ourselves and help us kind of forget ourselves, things that kind of take you out of your head. So things like drugs, alcohol, sex, food, porn, gambling, gaming, shopping, excessive screen time, or maybe even like a really hot, steamy, lusty affair. So what tempts you? What does this temptation seem to promise for you? So for example, for me, I'm often tempted by decadent desserts. And there's something really comforting about eating, decadent desserts. So that temptation promises me a sense of comfort, a sense of grounding. What brings you out of yourself? So what kinds of things helps you kind of forget yourself? And this could be healthy or unhealthy. So for example, dancing to good music helps me kind of get out of my head, just kind of forget all my problems. So that's kind of a healthy example. But eating junk food, smoking weed, those are things that might take me kind of out of myself in maybe a more unhealthy way. Or healthy way if it's done in moderation. So just, noticing what takes you out of yourself. And oftentimes these can be addictions as well. When was the last time that you felt tempted? And what did you do? What choice did you make and why? So the Lovers is also about primal desire, and mostly our primal desire for union and connection with another. So we are often driven by this desire, and sometimes this desire, we're not even fully aware of it. It can be kind of subliminal and subconscious. And if we look closely at our choices, our actions, our fears, and our desires, that primal desire for connection is often underlying all of them. And vulnerability here kind of comes into play. So vulnerability is really required in order to truly connect with another person. And this is what makes relationships complicated and frightening and difficult, because sometimes we're not willing to get really vulnerable, yet we still want that connection. And it's hard to really have a deep and lasting connection if we're unwilling to be vulnerable. All right, so a few questions for you. How does your primal desire for union and connection drive you? What actions, decisions, priorities, and choices have you made based on getting those desires and needs met? You can even just look back at the last decision you made, the last choice that you made. And if you sit with it for a bit, you may be able to see how that desire for connection is kind of underlying that choice in some way. The other question is, what does it mean to you to be vulnerable with another person? So I've said that a few times throughout the course of this video, but what does that really truly mean for you? So if you were to be vulnerable with someone close to you, what would that look like for you? What would that feel like? So the wisdom of the Lovers is that we all long to merge with someone or something. And when romantic union happens, it has the potential to bring out the best in us, and it has the potential to be this avenue for healing, for ecstasy, and growth. But it also has, on page 2 of my notes here, it also has the potential to bring out the worst in us and to bring our wounds and our fears and our dysfunctional patterns to the surface. The Lovers advises you to know and understand the difference between connection with another and obliteration of the self, because those two can't exist simultaneously. So you can't be truly and deeply connected with another and have lost your sense of self. You need to maintain your sense of self to truly connect with someone. All right, so let me know in the comments below. Did you enjoy this deep dive into the Lovers? Did you learn anything new about the Lovers or about yourself? And join me next week. I'm going to be diving into the Chariot, and I can hardly wait for that one. We're going to have a lot of fun. So in the meantime, you can check out my website, dailytarotgirl.com. I've got tons of fun tarot learning resources on there, and I'm going to be running my 4-week course starting, I think next week, starting November 10th. So there's a few more days left to sign up. It's a really fun course, and if you're interested, I'll put the link below this video if you want to check it out. So thank you so much for watching.